Alrighty, we're back. Thanks for staying with us. Episode number 378. We still have not come up with a name yet.
Shut the window.
Yeah, shut the window.
And not accepting that so far. I understand we have our first guest in the queue.
Rejected that.
His name is Martin Brock. He's running for candidate for the 9th District. This is the formerly the district of Sander Levin, is that right? And there's a number of candidates that are running. But let's please welcome to Planet Green Trees.
Oh, hold on. We seem to be having a minor
technical difficulties.
internet wireless issue.
I think it's Brooke, isn't it?
Just give us one moment, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Brooke.
Charlotte, keep your thought that we talked about in the break there for
Did you lose him?
somewhat lucid, so we can return to it if we need to.
No, he's there.
He's there, got him?
Yeah, well, just talk for a minute. Well, I'll have him on in a
I don't get too
minute.
upset about any one particular topic.
It's going to be good.
And I think it's Martin Brooke, isn't it? Is it Brooke?
Is it Brock or Brooke?
Brooke.
Okay.
Brooke.
I made
Brooke,
mis-
no
that's
Brock.
me. That's all my fault. It
That's
was
Charmy.
Brooke
All right.
up here. It's Charmy.
It's Chad did it. It's Chad.
Let's start
No,
with Martin
it's
Brook of the
Charmy.
9th
We always
District.
blame it on Chad. Always.
Oh, I can't.
Blame it on the
Chad and I had a rough
chest.
start.
I-
So we're
All right,
on to what-
here we go. Martin Brook.
Martin Brooke.
Martin Brook, can you hear us?
You have no idea. I'm a resistant motherfucker.
Martin, are you with us? Oh, hold on, Martin.
Hear me?
Yep, there he is.
Yay! All right.
Hello.
Yes, Martin. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I understand you're running for the 9th District, and we're excited for you. Let me start by asking you this. I'm Michael Comorn, by the way. I'm surrounded by a bunch of, call them like friends, as we do this radio
Michael.
show every Thursday. Let me ask, as I do sometimes to the other candidates, why in the world would you want to become a politician in today's day and age?
Hey, that's a great question. Actually, I think being a politician is a state of mind, and I don't ever plan on changing my state of mind. I want to go there and be a public servant. I've been a public servant before, volunteered, became elected to my local school board. I'm an attorney. I practice law. It's my full-time job. So this running for office is not my career, and I don't plan to make it my long-term career. I instead plan to be there to try to solve problems, address the extremes that are preventing things from getting done in Congress, and return to my career as a practicing attorney. I practice labor and employment law. So, in the end, I really believe that I'm doing this to become a public servant and to address the needs where the majority of the people are on issues, like cannabis reform, in fact, instead of listening to the extremes, which seem to hold sway in Congress.
Well, that particular former congressman I know was not on the forefront of this issue. I know that a lot of people within the
That is an understatement.
I know. I was trying to be polite. In the medical cannabis community, cannabis reform community, would say that he was just not interested. And same with Debbie Stabenow, but and almost like not acknowledging it in a frustrating way. Why do you think that is? And what do you think the tenor of that district is on this particular issue?
I don't know what the tenor of the district is on this issue. I know what the tenor is generally in the public, but I don't have a pollster. A lot of candidates hire pollsters, and they poll on things, and they decide what they're going to say based on what the polls say. I'm saying based on what is, what I believe, what I've grown up with, and what I've experienced as a professional. I think that the district is ultimately.
We lose him?
Oh,
Now you see it.
Our wireless network is being
Can you
dragged.
hear my back?
yeah, we lost the internet.
Point in. Entirely?
It's full timing.
Is the show on?
No, the show is still on. Keep talking.
All right.
I don't-
So we
I don't
can
have
be
any
heard?
internet on my phone in here either.
All right. Well, we were talking for a moment there, Martin Brook, candidate for the 9th District. We acknowledge so far that Senator Levin has just been terrible for marijuana.
Well, if we get him back on the phone to see if he supports
I just went back on.
HR 1227, which ends federal prohibition.
Here, speak into the microphone so that we'll know the number. HR.
HR 1227, ending federal marijuana prohibition.
Yeah!
A law introduced by the
Well,
West, was it Virginia?
It was introduced like kind of under the radar, because there was a bunch of marijuana bills out there, and everyone was paying attention to Cory Booker's. But I understand. I read some Hill article or whatever, and it suggests that this Republican for Virginia is getting a lot of traction on just eliminating it from the Controlled Substance Act of Schedule 1.
Thank you for calling Call-In Studio.
Frankly, that had me
Is that
excited, and when the Trump administration did not mention cannabis policy in the State of the Union, I was pretty upset. That's it.
I mean, that's.
But were you surprised,
Some of that,
Shyler?
some of that was meaningful, but then the last
No,
conversation.
I really
So
thought
no
that
credit.
it would be mentioned.
Is there a caller back?
I mean, drug
No,
policy is
no,
a
no.
serious issue. I mean, we're talking about opioids, but
How does it
We're
end
almost
federal
there.
marijuana prohibition? What is it? Does it eliminate Schedule 1?
Yeah,
It
deschedules
deschedules.
marijuana from Schedule 1 and affects a lot of transportation aspects. Like,
Does it reschedule it on any?
What's the other
is it
bill?
on the
What's the
schedule?
states leave it alone?
the states leave it
alone.
alone is Cory Booker's bill. He basically doesn't do anything at the federal level, but just says states will leave it alone.
Which is
It's
fine.
It's the codification of coal
States' rights,
and
right.
but all of the traditional norms for marijuana policy.
Martin, are you back?
This bill, in fact, would again end federal prohibition of
Oh,
marijuana.
yep, he's all right. I think we've got Martin back now. Martin, we're having some
As
technical
opposed to
difficulties.
Virginian Republican.
Hold on. So is Martin back?
I am.
Oh, very good. Sorry about that, and I don't know. We take responsibility. We were just talking for a minute about this. There's two
There's
federal bills. There's probably more, but the two that have been talked about are one is introduced by a Virginia senator, Republican.
There's a Virginia Republican who introduced House Bill 1227,
which is to end federal prohibition,
And
versus this Cory Booker, which is kind of the Democratic model of how to cure this immediately, which is to create a legislation that kind of adopts the Cole memo or leave it to the states, and as long as they have a regulated system in place, then it's a funding issue. I think it's sort of the DEA's jurisdictional and whatnot. But I mean, do you have any thought on that? What do you think? If there was a solution, we all agree that this is a racist war that was based on a lie, and Nixon knew it and ignored the evidence, and blah blah blah, and thousands of lives have been devastated since then, and it's been beaten into the propaganda machine, and we've got $15 million a year in forfeiture that are being raked out of people's pockets, into the state coffer. And none of them are cartels, and none of them are, RICO. It's $5,000 here. Someone's got some cash, or whatever. So, what do you think the solution is? How are we going to get to that particular juncture? I mean, obviously we need like-minded candidates, but when you get there, how's that going to happen? What do you think's the quickest path?
So, Michael, was that a question for me? Because I really couldn't hear most of that, and I apologize. But I did get a sense that you spoke a little bit about some action going on in the U.S. Congress with Senator Booker and his Marijuana Justice Act, which Barbara Lee just recently introduced in the House on the 17th of this year.
Yes. What I was asking about is this: there's that bill, like the other two most prominent, to address the marijuana issue. Like, there's a lot of what does legalization look like? That's a conversation that could last for days. But what it looks like is going to depend upon what laws are enacted. Like the solution is in what the legislation does to give the path to, if it's there's different ways that, like they did with prohibition. First the feds regulated, then they ultimately left it to the states, but that was like a process that they went through. The two bills that are there now, one by this Virginia Republican introduced into the House, is to end federal prohibition, where they would just deschedule it or unschedule it. It's no longer Schedule 1. Actually, as what's the thing I just said it?
You're back. You're much better now.
The Schaefer.
The interference has been really rough.
Oh God! So you missed. Anyways, well, how is it?
Yeah, so I think you're talking.
What's the best path for ending this insanity? See, we lost him again. Can't take it. I can hear it.
Yeah.
What?
He keeps fighting out.
We're having some issues.
All right, it's not his fault.
Where's Chad?
I can hear you better now.
I said there's a lot of different legislation. Do you have a specific idea what the best path is to get to ending the marijuana, like the genuine effort? Like so that, and what does that look like, if you can describe it if you had a magic wand?
No, I think there's a growing consensus around the idea that the war on drugs has been a complete failure. It's been a massive waste of funds, and on a federal level and a state level, it's really, it's misnamed. In fact, perhaps one calls it a war on drugs, but it's really turned into a war on people of color and a war on their families. It's a prison industrial complex project, and it's completely failed. At times it's been looked at as more of a comprehensive thing. Look, the war on drugs itself has not been successful when Republicans push things like just say no. It hasn't worked. Instead, it's a matter of personal freedom and personal choice. It's a matter of training and education. It's a comprehensive problem. It's a personal health problem sometimes when people are engaged, abusing drugs or alcohol or other drugs, but making it illegal isn't solving anything. And it's part of what the politicians do, right? Nixon created a false narrative, a fairy tale, if you will, about cannabis, and as a result, passed laws. It's a Schedule I drug. It's hindered research. It's hindered all sorts of things that we could be learning, and instead just halted really things in the ground. So, I'd be a federal advocate for increased freedom in this area, for allowing states to do what the states want to do through referendums like this. And right now, the federal government's going backwards. And I would hope to be an advocate to go in the right direction on this issue and regulate based upon good science. And regulate only where required.
Do you think it's for this? Do you think it's for the states to do that, or do you think the federal government? Who do you think plays the role here? Like
I think
some
the federal
states,
government needs to only get involved when it really needs to get involved, and that's not very often, in fact, in this issue. I really think states should be left to do it, and when states like California, Colorado, and hopefully.
It's gonna come back. I feel good.
He's coming back. I can feel it.
Who's coming back?
Come on.
I don't think so.
I can feel it coming.
Oh, it says we're still connected.
I feel like he was just getting going, too.
Yeah. I think that's my question.
It sounds like a good time to take a break. I think he intentionally gave us a cliffhanger.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, I guess we had a little technical difficulties with our caller. What time is it? It's 10 to 9.
If anybody wants to guess what he's going to say next.
Howard's calling at 9, is that right? I can't see.
Yeah, I think. I think.
Am I gone?
Oh, he's back. Okay, he's back. Hey,
Yes, 9
You got
o'clock,
him.
Howard
the
Woolridge.
cliffhanger can continue. Please go on. Well, Martin's back.
I'm not really sure actually where I left off because I'm not sure where it cut out. But I am back.
You were
just
starting
want
to
say
talk about how there are only very small amount of issues
Yes,
that the federal government should be involved in regulating.
Yeah, the federal government. Look, I'm a Democrat. I believe that the federal government has a strong place to play in making people's lives better. But I also believe that when misused by people who have an agenda, extreme agenda, it's a weapon that doesn't really help people, and we need to use it when it's appropriate. We need to protect freedom for folks and the liberty to run their lives. And this really kind of falls in one of those categories where I'd consider myself kind of a libertarian about it. And so the feds should be respecting states' decisions on these things and regulating it less. The feds should be opening up banking laws to allow industries in this area to flourish. Michigan, I hope, could be one of the first states in the forefront of this. There's a lot of opportunity to grow an industry and make it. And there's a lot of things that the federal government can do. For instance, they could study proper agriculture, study what pesticides